The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please ask us why, we will tell you the reason. Greetings, dear listeners, from us to your ears. This is the show Jim Carrey doesn't want you to hear. Welcome to a very, very special Christmas episode of Monkeys and Playbills.
I'm Jillian Willems.
I'm Paul DeGurse. This is the show where we examine shows that had runs of 100 performances or fewer on Broadway, not counting previews, and examine what went wrong.
Now this one's a little bit different.
This is a very special Christmas special episode.
So this production we are going to be talking about today is How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
It's actually called Dr. Seuss's The Grinch Musical! According to NBC.
Now, before you all get on your keyboards and send us grumpy emails about, oh, wait a minute, this wasn't on Broadway, this didn't close after under 100 performances. Absolutely it did. For 2 years, The Grinch was a Christmas special on Broadway, running for only a couple of months. So it has been on Broadway, and on one of its runs on Broadway, it ran under 100 performances.
Correct.
Technically, we're allowed to do this.
So there. And also, it's our podcast, so we get to decide.
Also, it's our podcast.
What to bend the rules for.
So we're actually not even going to talk that much about the Broadway show, but we're going to talk about the recent television adaptation of the Broadway show that aired on NBC this past Wednesday.
Oh, we are going to talk about that. Yes, we are. So if you are a person who watched that production along with us, I can't wait for you to hear what we have to say, and that's it. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. We're going to try to keep this a similar format to how we've done this podcast in the past, in that we're going to go through each individual element of the show, discussing it element by element. Typically, we would discuss why this show ran under 100 performances on Broadway, but this time we're going to discuss why everyone on the internet is so grumpy about this production.
And maybe the Grinch really did steal Christmas.
It seems like since this past Wednesday, everyone is grumpy about how this production went. Mm-hmm. Typically, when these NBC Live musicals air, people are like, oh, this was great, and this was goofy, and this was fantastic, and this was terrible. I'm not sure anyone liked this.
Yeah, I have yet to find an endorsement of this production.
Right?
I don't know, guys. I think I could have watched this at least 100 times. I don't know about you.
It feels like I did watch it 100 times.
Should we get into it?
Yes. Here we go.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, live? Previewed never. It opened on NBC on December 9th, 2020. It closed December 9th, 2020 after one performance, and it's one too many, and it was all pre-taped over 2 days at the Troubadour Theatre in London. There we go. I just needed to make it seem like it was our regular show.
That's extremely funny. This is a game we love to play on this podcast. Is Jill has a plot synopsis for the show in front of her, and I try to, from memory, describe the plot as I understood it.
Yep, and I'd love for you to do that now.
So I'm very familiar with the original Grinch cartoon.
1966.
I'm very familiar with the Jim Carrey movie.
2000?
But I'm going to try to remove my knowledge of both of those and approach this as if this was the first time I had ever seen the Grinch story. The only experience I have with the Grinch, as far as this plot synopsis goes, is this show. So, there are Who's. They like Christmas. That's all we know about them. Full stop.
Yes.
I think every Who down in Whoville likes Christmas a lot.
But there's this guy, this Grinch, and he's got a dog. And the dog is a significant part of the story. I'm surprised this show is not called Max the Dog, and how his owner didn't like Christmas, because we get a lot about the dog's life, the dog's history. So much so there's usually two versions of the dog on stage. You've got an old version of the dog and a young version of the dog. And the dog's owner is the Grinch, who is a green person.
Yes.
Who is not very funny and very grumpy all the time. And looks an awful lot like Mr. Shu from Glee.
Yeah, a lot.
Oddly so. And he doesn't oh, what is it? He gets grumpy because because some of the Who's try to say, "We love you, friend." They try to put a sign out so he could see from his hideaway, "We love you, friend." Mm-hmm. But the R falls off and it says, "We love you, fiend." And this makes him so mad that he sneaks into a department store in disguise and doesn't do anything. Just hangs out for like a long time.
I think he steals fabric, doesn't he?
He steals fabric from a department store.
Fabric and fur.
Makes himself a Santa costume and then goes around stealing the Christmas presents from people's houses. But then the little girl who did the "We love you, fiend, love you, friend" thing meets him and tells him that she loves him. Mm-hmm. And that makes his heart grow 3 sizes that day. And he decides, "I'm going to return all the presents." No, that doesn't do anything.
That's right.
He doesn't care that she said that. But then he hears that the Who's are okay with having Christmas with no presents. They are, even though they appear to be very materialistic, they really do have the spirit of Christmas. So then he brings all the presents back, and he gets to be part of Christmas after all.
And he gets to carve the roast beast.
Yep, but he's not happy about that.
I don't know if we ever see that, actually.
I think we saw that at the end. I think we did.
I was just so checked out, I think, at that point. I'm sorry.
Okay, so do you have an actual synopsis of this?
I do, yeah. And, okay, so yours was a pretty good one.
Yep.
It wasn't actually all that far off from the musical.
Great.
I really had to search for a synopsis of the musical version.
Yeah.
Because they all just sort of say based on the book by Dr. Seuss, right? So they don't feel the need to go into detail.
Totally. In the real world, this is a very well-known story. Yeah, totally.
So this one I found directly from NBC. So I took it off of their Dr. Seuss page, or their Grinch page.
Fantastic.
It says, Dr. Seuss's famous book tells the story of a reclusive Grinch who plotted from his cave atop snowy Mount Crumpet to steal Christmas from the Who's in Whoville. Then, on Christmas Eve, disguised as Santa Claus and enlisting his loyal dog Max as reindeer, the Grinch traveled to Whoville to scoop up the Who's gifts and decorations. But, much to his surprise, on Christmas morning, the Who's were unfazed and celebrated the holiday with a heartwarming display of joy and love. And that is not at all the production we saw on Wednesday.
No, it is not.
So they barely, in this synopsis, talk about Max as the narrator.
Which is very surprising because he is an enormous part of this entire show.
Massive.
I would say the first lead above the Grinch.
Yep, I would agree.
They don't in that synopsis talk about Cindy Lou who is a pretty significant part of every telling of the story, including this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing that they say in this synopsis is that the Who's were unfazed.
Right.
But they weren't in this musical. Like, they have a full reaction song.
As well they should, because someone broke into all their houses.
And stole everything except a crumb that was even too tiny for a mouse.
Like, to be honest, if I was them, I would be more concerned about the fact that there has been a massive breaking and entering case all over our town.
A burglary of the entire town. Yeah.
I don't care that it's Christmas or not. This is very unsafe.
Exactly. Okay, great. So that's the synopsis.
This is a kind of an interesting little production. More than anything, I would say that this adaptation of The Grinch as a musical is interesting in how much life it's gotten.
So, music by Mel Marvin. Book by Timothy Mason. Lyrics by Timothy Mason. Additional music and lyrics by Albert Haig and Dr. Seuss. Additional script material / the television adaptation by Simon Nye. Orchestrations by Michael Starobin.
That's part of the whole show.
Incidental music and vocal arrangements by Joshua Rosenblum. And dance music arrangements by David Crane.
It's a fascinating show. As I was saying, fascinating in the amount of life that it's gotten, where it was created for a 2006 Broadway special by a team that included Mel Marvin, this composer. And since then, it's had 3 holiday runs at friggin' Madison Square Garden, 19 consecutive sold-out seasons at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego. It goes out on a national tour each year, has special productions all over the country. This is possibly the most successful show we will ever cover on this podcast. Absolutely one of the most successful shows to have never existed on Broadway for over 100 performances.
Wow.
Yeah, people cannot get enough of The Grinch.
I wonder why. Like, what's the draw?
Well, I think that original the TV special, the cartoon one, is very, very good and very well loved.
Correct.
I think that's the big thing. I think the Jim Carrey movie was pretty popular as well.
I've actually never seen it.
Have you? My next question was going to be, do you like it? But you've never seen it.
I've never seen any version of The Grinch other than the original.
What?
And this Wednesday production.
Isn't there also one that came out in 2018 where Benedict Cumberbatch is the Grinch?
I didn't even know that was a thing until Daphne said, we are not even going to acknowledge that version.
And we still won't.
And we still won't. Is because it's bad? Because it's no good?
Apparently it follows in that same tradition of the Horton Hears a Who adaptation and the Lorax adaptation, where it's like, it's a bloated version of the original story that doesn't really seem to get what made the original story so popular.
Right. Yes, okay.
So I think that should bring us very well into our next section, where we're going to talk about the various elements of this production, including how on earth do you turn a, 20-page children's book.
It's actually 72 pages, thank you very much.
That became beloved 20-minute Christmas special into a 2-hour holiday spectacular musical. So let's talk about the book. Now, when we say the book, we're not talking about the original Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, we already know that's good.
That's good. That's great. Love Dr. Seuss. Hilarious. Very cute.
The end.
The end. Nothing more to say. Thank you very much.
We would like to discuss Timothy Mason's book.
Oh, yes. That is to say, his script for this musical.
Yeah.
What is there to say about this book, Gillian Willems?
Okay, so the first few things we need to point out are that, as you mentioned before, it's a, 25-minute cartoon, right? Animated.
Absolutely.
Christmas special originally. And how do you turn that into a 90-minute musical? So it is bloated, as some critics would call it.
Yep.
As in they have to really flesh it out in a way that is not super necessary for the show, for the original book.
I would say flesh it out in a way that doesn't actually add anything to the characters, though.
Yep. Yes.
At no point do we gain a much deeper understanding of any of the characters through the fleshing out process.
Except Max.
Oh, we get... Okay, let's go back on this. In other adaptations of this, or I guess in the original book, Max is literally just a drawing.
Yes.
Do they even mention his name?
Maybe once, I think.
And then he's a cute cartoon dog.
Yeah.
Who does cute physical comedy in the cartoon.
Exactly.
And then in the Jim Carrey, he's a real dog, and it's very cute.
Oh.
And it's still a relatively small role.
Yeah, because dogs can be really, really temperamental actors. So you have to keep their roles really, really short. Unless they're golden retrievers, and then you can have a full Air Bud series about them.
Unfortunately, Buddy from Air Bud was not available for the Grinch movie, so they had to get a different dog.
It's a really small role, yeah.
So they've made this Max, the dog character, a central figure who exists in 3 different timelines.
Yes.
The whole story is being told by old Max the dog, who's played by humans. They're all played by humans, who's talking about his time as medium Max the dog, working for the Grinch when he tried to steal Christmas. But also we get a flashback to young Max the dog as a kid.
Yes, that's right. We do, in a musical number.
It's very Fun Home-esque, I would say.
Yeah. I would never have thought to compare the 2 musicals. Ever?
Maybe it's where Fun Home got the idea.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
How the Fun Home stole intellectual property.
Alison Bechdel went to see The Grinch on Broadway in 2006.
And something clicked. Yeah. So yeah, this whole story is essentially from Max's perspective.
Yes.
And I think it could have been so funny if he was writing a memoir and that was his narration, but he was just sitting in a chair, right? And telling us the story of the Grinch.
As it stands, what do you think of the way they use this this device, this convention of Max the old dog telling the story?
I mean, someone has to tell the story because in my mind, it needs to be narrated.
Yeah. Because
the original is, and the way the book is written, it makes the most sense.
Absolutely.
I just don't know if it should have been Max.
It's a very bizarre convention. I don't see how it helps anything. And also there's something kind of off-putting about the human acting like a dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't like it. It made me feel weird. I think what was really off-putting to me was the human being on all fours all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes, the charm of a dog on stage is that it's a human, and we're all like, yes, it's a human being, because you want to believe the thoughts of the dog. But if a human is on all fours just pretending to be a dog,
I'm inclined to agree, because especially you think of, at some points in time, the two Maxes exist in the same timeline. They're both Old Max and Medium Max dance together with the Grinch. Because I can't highlight this enough. This is a crazy fever dream of a show.
oh God.
And they dance on their hind legs.
They do.
And that's on their hinders. And that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's impressive.
That didn't bother me.
For a dog. I mean, I think we can both agree that maybe we just don't like Max being such a central character in the telling of this story.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Max is cute if it's like some kind of a goofy comic relief thing. I'm not a huge fan of Max being the central character here.
Yes. So that's like the first big difference in the script versus the story.
In keeping with the original Dr. Seuss, virtually all the dialogue in this script is in rhyme, is in Dr. Seuss style of verse. Well,
it's in an attempted rhyme.
This is a true story. I didn't notice it was all in rhyme till about halfway through.
I didn't either.
And I went like, oh, it's back in rhyme. Turns out it was in rhyme all along.
Oh, God. And that's how you know that it's just not properly written verse.
So why doesn't that work? Gillian Willems, the original story is in rhyme. The original cartoon is all in Dr. Seuss's original verse. And it is so charming. Why doesn't it work to just write more rhyme?
So Dr. Seuss is sort of in a class of his own, right? In terms of that style of writing, and especially in children's books. My favorite thing about children's theater is when it's done correctly, it's written for all ages. And I think what happened in this adaptation is that the core parts of Dr. Seuss verse that we love are there, but then Timothy Mason, and I believe we should also credit Simon Nye for this TV adaptation, because I think he added a few things. And I really think they were kind of like not sure how to keep the essence of this is a family production. Like they put in some like fart and poop jokes, and they put in like social distancing jokes, and I'm like, no, the point of Dr. Seuss is that it is what it is, and why are we winking and nodding about this?
I'd like to point out that I'm usually a huge fan of fart jokes, poop jokes, butt jokes.
Oh yeah, you love butts.
Yeah, but that was too much for me. I was like, that's tasteless.
Oh, I know.
Come on now.
Exactly.
And it has to be a pretty tasteless fart joke for me to think it's tasteless.
Ugh.
Not even that could cheer me up. Not even that could make my heart grow 3 sizes.
I agree. Anyway, that's my hot take on why, like, adding to this, verse doesn't work, in my opinion.
And I think that's a pretty accurate summation of why the book in general doesn't work. It's trying to take this magic of Dr. Seuss and expand on it in all the wrong ways. Rather than keeping this, Dr. Seuss keeps things short, he keeps things general, and his writing is very concise. The rhymes are very concise. A lot of the time he ends up making up words to rhyme, and those words are always very charming.
Yes, and I love that.
Absolutely. This book manages to somehow ignore all of that.
Yep.
And do the opposite of everything. It's like as if you describe to aliens, this is how to write a Dr. Seuss story. And without fully understanding the nuance, they were like, all right, it has to have rhymes, and it's for kids, so they like farts and butts.
Yeah. So on that note, let's grade this.
Okay.
Out of 10 playbills, how many monkeys are you giving the script?
I'm giving the script 3 monkeys out of 10 playbills.
All right.
What about you?
I was going to give it a 2.5, but you also have to add a lot of points for the original Dr. Seuss book, because there's some of that in there.
Yes, and it just shines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe we can land somewhere around a 4.
Oh, that's too high. I can't do that.
Is it? Okay,
I
fine.
feel weird
I'll
about
land
that.
at a 4.
I'm sticking hard on my 3. I feel weird about anything other than that.
Okay, that's okay. We can disagree by one monkey.
I feel especially cautious about these ratings because I know our listeners will have watched this too, or will have the opportunity to watch this after. Mm-hmm. And so I feel very, very committed to them.
I would love for our listeners actually to send us a DM of their ratings for this.
Absolutely.
Specifically, because I know we had a few folks watching along with us, which we'll talk about a little later.
Absolutely, we will.
Should we get into the music?
If we have to.
Music by Broadway's uncle, Mel Marvin. Does that joke get funnier the more I say it? Or is it worse every time?
It gets funnier to me.
Yes, it does. The power of repetition. Just gotta keep saying it.
If you do it 3 times as funny, then 5 times as funny, then 7 times as funny.
Oh, I thought comedy was just 3s.
No, comedy is odd numbers.
11 times.
11 times. So, Mel Marvin. Paul, do you know anything about Mel Marvin?
I don't know anything about Mel Marvin, so I did some research.
Cool.
Mel Marvin has written a ton. He's had an enormous career. Seems like a cool career. He teaches at Tisch, NYU Tisch.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah.
And he has a very extensive bio on their website that I was able to take a look at. A lot of scores for regional theater musicals across the United States. A lot of scoring for plays. Mm-hmm. Nothing that anyone but the most hardcore Broadway fans would recognize.
Got it.
But, you know, seems like a cool guy. He's sure worked a lot.
Great.
I'm sure he's nice. I'm sure we'd get along. If he wants to come on the podcast, I'm sorry for what we're about to say about your score.
Yeah. Sorry, Mel, but here we go.
I hate this score.
Yeah, you get going.
Just like the book, where it is so obvious when we've skipped into Dr. Seuss's actual verse as opposed to the stuff that was composed by someone else. It is so obvious when we are skipping into music that was composed for the original beloved television special.
Yes.
So that's specifically the Who's Christmas Carol, the Fa Hu Fore Fa Hu Dore. Fa Hu Fore Fa Hu Dore.
Welcome Christmas. Yeah.
Exactly. Or the very famous You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
And even they jump into the breakaway pop hit from the year 2000 Jim Carrey movie, Where Are You Christmas?
Oh, that's where that's from. Okay.
That's where that's from. And that even still sticks out like a sore thumb because, man, the rest of the music is tuneless.
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre. It's like a Stephen Sondheim B-side. You know what I mean?
It's like the very first thing he wrote, like when he was like 15 or whatever.
Yeah, it's like all the parts that make Stephen Sondheim inaccessible, the weird time signatures, the atonality, without any of the stuff that makes Stephen Sondheim brilliant.
Yeah.
The beautiful melodies and the melding of pop with atonality and weird time signatures.
Yes, totally.
And it just, again and again, one of my first notes was, I Hate Christmas, which is the Grinch's first song, is clearly by Stephen Sondheim. Because it's this weird, Christmas, Christmas, I hate it a lot, ba-dun-dun-dun-dun, Christmas, Christmas, da-da-da-da-da. And then it just keeps on going. I couldn't hum a single song for you.
Oh, God.
That's not from the original TV show.
I was going to say I might be able to fake sing One of a Kind, but no, I don't think I could even do that. Do you remember that one?
We're one of a kind. Not at all. No.
It's like the Grinch's big showstopper, but it really wasn't a showstopper in this production, but apparently in other productions it is. Like it's like a torch song, if you will.
We're going to get to Mr. Morrison.
Yes. So I want to bring up something that I read on the USA Today review of the NBC production. Mm-hmm. It's this review was written by Kelly Lawler, and Kelly Lawler writes...
Friend of the podcast, Kelly Lawler.
Yep. Yeah. So the quote is... The score mixes in the classic music from the 1966 special with an original score, which serves only to emphasize how wonderful the original music is and how truly awful the new stuff is.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I agree completely. It just doesn't make sense. Also, Kelly Lawler wrote this one, which I really love because this sort of sums up my feelings about it. Quote, "There is simply not enough to this story to justify the runtime of this musical or either major motion picture, and so extraneous narratives and songs are added. A song about consumerism that undercuts the theme of the book that Christmas isn't about the trimmings? Sure. Ham-handed dialogue forced into a rhyming scheme a first grader would be embarrassed by? So awesome, possum."
I agree completely. Why on earth? Why was there a pull to make this 90 minutes? Especially if it's a family show.
Yes.
Let it run an hour. Let it run 45 minutes. It'll be very charming.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe it would work better if some of these songs were a little more tuneful.
Yes.
I can't imagine any kid having fun listening to this music.
Not even the annoying kids song about how they're just like singing about the toys that they got. I'm pretty sure they would be like yelling on the way home.
I hated that song.
Oh, the bad Matilda song.
Except Matilda has some really nice melodies in it.
That's true. I'm feeling conflicted about this book and this music. Like, I can't take it all in.
I think that's fair as well. And maybe it would be fair for us to reserve judgment a little bit, as I'm speaking so strongly about this, to reserve judgment a little bit for seeing it in person and experiencing it in person.
Mm-hmm. And through the eyes of a child, too. I always love children's theater because of that. When they giggle at things and shout at the actors, and that you can't really get that from our kitchen tables when I'm the one shouting.
Yeah. Also, Michael Strobin's orchestrations are great. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect.
Absolutely.
Dance arrangements were really nice.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so out of 10 Playbills, how many monkeys are you giving the music and lyrics?
3 for Mel Marvin's. Add 1 for the really nice songs from the original TV show, and add 1 for Michael Strobin's orchestrations. So we're coming in at a 5.
Okay, I can be on board with that.
There you go. That's a fair ranking. See, we're not Grinches. We're not that mean.
Good job. Yay. Should we talk about this creative team?
I would love to.
This production was directed for television by Julia Knowles. The stage direction itself was done by Max Webster. Music direction by Richard John. And choreography by Lizzie Gee. And then I'm sure there were like 800 assistants.
And it's worth noting as well, we're not going to talk about the TV direction for this.
Mm-hmm.
Really, when we talk about direction, we're going to be examining the stage direction, because this was filmed live on stage.
Yes. So the only thing I will say about the TV, like the film direction, is that Julia Knowles, I think, was actually a very appropriate choice. And when you look at her resume, she's directed a lot of TV, a lot of TV specials, and a lot of concerts. So she's done like the X Factor UK, and then she did like a Bette Midler One Night Only and a Neil Diamond One Night Only, and like just has an understanding of how to direct for that type of production. So
for like the event production.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think she was a wise choice. Also, she has a degree in medieval studies, which I thought was really funny.
Oh, that's rad. Good for her. What a cool thing to study.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting you say that, because one of the things that frustrates me most about this production and this production team is this doesn't feel like a big enough event. Maybe I'd also hyped it up in my head too much, because I was like, let's go, Christmas special in the year of COVID. We're going to do it. We're going to see. Yeah. Like, live theater's been all but canceled, but we're bringing it back, and we're bringing it back with the Grinch. Weird choice, but let's pull out all the stops. And, well, we'll get into what happened. What can we blame specifically on the direction?
So the stage direction was by Max Webster, who I looked him up, quite young. Well, youngish, I would guess like late 30s, maybe even early 40s. Works a lot at the Old Vic.
Like not a veteran.
No, certainly not, but has done adaptations of, I think it was the Lorax for the stage.
Oh, great.
And he also does some Shakespeare stuff. And I think someone wrote in an article that it was like amazing to them that he did both Shakespeare and Dr. Seuss, but I was like, they're the same. Like, I don't. So do you want to talk about Max Webster's work at all?
Like, what can I say? Jill, I'm not sure I can, because I think I'm a little unclear on what the role of the director would be in this kind of big old production, other than like a giant overseeing vision.
Right.
I think he certainly didn't bring much humanity to the characters or help them plumb any kind of emotional depths.
My understanding of this production, because I've watched a few other of NBC Live's productions.
Yeah.
And they all have like an audience.
Yes.
And an audience that's really enthusiastic.
Totally.
So that's also a scene partner that we were missing in this one. So already that's kind of stacked against you in terms of this format of a musical. They shot this live version over the course of 2 days.
Great, sure.
I don't know. Do you think they pre-recorded the vocals? Because I didn't see a microphone on a single one, and on the wide shots, I didn't see a single boom. So I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not sure. The reason I'm inclined to say they didn't was because it seems like they balance on the verge of a train wreck during Where Are You Christmas, like the cast.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was my instinct. But also, if they filmed it over 2 days and it wasn't actually just a live broadcast, why didn't they go back on it?
Right. Okay.
So I don't know. That's an enormous mystery to me. My inclination is no, because I know for past NBC Live productions, they did not pre-record the vocals. They were very, very proud of that fact. And so I'm inclined to say no, they didn't for this as well. As far as why there are no mics, I don't know. Maybe they're hidden really well.
I don't know either. But all this to say, my understanding of Max Webster's role as director would be similar to any musical theater director. So
Sure.
I think he would have been responsible for the actual staging of the whole thing. And then Julia Knowles would come in and say, oh, this is the angle we should capture. And oh, can we tweak this so the Grinch is staring right into our souls? Like those kinds of collaborative decisions from Julia Knowles. So I think we should maybe work off of Max Webster's what he showed us, because I think he's the one responsible for the staging.
What's interesting to me is that I'm looking at the credits right now for the NBC production. What I'm not seeing is anything marked as like an editing credit. I'm not seeing whose immediate responsibility it would have been to be like, okay, and now we change to this camera angle, or this is where we put like... So I feel like between Julia Knowles and I would say Simon Nye, that's probably where we would have figured out where the commercial cuts go.
Right.
Which are in some weird spots,
Oh,
as we
God,
kind of have been talking about.
Yep.
The biggest one, the most egregious one, is where the sleigh, the giant sleigh full of presents, is at the top of Mount Crumpet, and then we cut to commercial, and then we get back, and it's down, and everything's fine, and all the presents are on the ground.
And Max the dog is like, everything's cool, reminiscing.
And we're like, okay, cool, so I guess we're just not going to talk about how the sleigh got down. That's fine. That's fine.
Yes, exactly. So that's like that's a continuity thing.
It absolutely
That
is.
would probably, you're right, fall to the editing. Okay, so Max Webster is a fine director, I'm sure. But I just feel like being restricted to a soundstage with, like, 6 set pieces and children everywhere, like, there's not much to be done.
I think as a director as well, you kind of have to take something goes wrong in another department, to a certain extent, you kind of have to take some of that blame and some of that brunt as the head honcho. So I think this production is not very fun to watch, and I think that falls just as much on Mac Webster's shoulders as anyone else's.
Yep, I can agree with that. So Lizzie Gee is a very busy choreographer.
Really?
Yeah, really busy.
Great.
So she's based
her.
in London. She works for the Old Vic, the Young Vic. That wasn't a joke. That's a real place. I didn't know that was a theater.
She does not work for Arvik, though. Let it be known.
But not Arvik. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so she does a ton of work. She did a production, like she does plays, she does musicals.
Yeah.
She does a little bit of short film, but it doesn't seem that she's really kind of like broken into a ton of commercial work. But yeah, she seems very busy, and that's Lizzie Gee. So what do you think about her choreo, Paul?
I do not like it.
Why?
I'm not a choreographer. I don't know much about dance other than what I've picked up from my very, intelligent, very skilled dance friends. But this choreo at best left the stage feeling empty. And at worst felt like we were just trying to figure out ways to move bodies from one point to another.
Yes.
If we want this whole thing to be an event, to be a big television special, and you have to assume they have a fair amount of resources at their disposal.
Yes.
There was no flash, no pizzazz, no levels? Am I crazy?
Nope,
I want to see someone getting friggin' lifted up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's lift someone in the air. Let's fly someone. Let's throw someone.
Ooh,
they were just all on the ground, and like once in a while, one person would flip. I wrote down like some of these kids have tricks.
Yes.
Because like someone would do a back handspring or something once in a while.
Yeah.
But one back handspring does not a nice choreographic statement make. Maybe 4 at the same time, you know?
Yeah, totally.
What's your much more educated thought?
No, I think you're definitely onto something. I think there were no levels. I think there wasn't even, like, it just didn't seem like they consulted her at all in terms of what she might want or need for the staging. Like, I feel like they presented her with the set pieces and they were like, okay, but you can only use these stairs to nowhere in the closing number, so just make them stand there and then make sure most of your staging is just in lines. Like, no one was ever, like, spread out. It was always like, oh, let's just be in, like, windows and, like, 2 rows.
Yep.
Like, it just was all super simple in terms of formations, and I like a little more texture in that way. I like surprises. I like people jumping out of places,
You have to assume, like, if this was a children's theater production of The Grinch or whatever the case may be, maybe we could talk and that would have worked really well. But this is NBC Live. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to assume that you had the resources at your disposal to hire 5 super tricksters.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? To really fill out the dance numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Missing from this whole thing was a sense of grandeur and a sense of we pulled out some stops. Mm-hmm. I understand you can't pull out all the stops right now, but there's a few more stops they could have pulled out, you know?
Yeah, I agree. The other thing that was interesting in terms of a choreographic choice was that I got the impression that Lizzie Gee had watched like a production of Babes in Toyland or something. So all of the Who's moved sort of like in a robotic and tantrum-y way. It was a little bit weird.
I've got that all the Who's are, I'm glad you brought this up, all the Who's are butts and hips.
Yeah, like isolations and like elbows, like so many elbows.
I noticed that they kind of walk like me on ice. It was a lot of like shuffling kind of forward and backwards.
Yeah, so much shuffling, but in first position.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, shuffling like their knees are glued together.
Yeah, I definitely could see where she was trying to go with it. I liked the energy of it. I thought that was quite nice. But yeah, the formations were lacking, the levels were lacking, and the variety was lacking. There was like a Steam Heat spin-off homage moment that really bothered me too, because they were on roller skates and I was like, ugh.
You hate an unearned homage.
Yeah, like we didn't earn that at all. It's like, oh, we're doing Fosse now. Okay.
We're doing Fosse after alienating the entire section of our audience who would like that.
Yes, exactly. Like they've all turned it off now.
That's you and I, and we're checked out at this point.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, Fosse on wheels.
I'd like to point out that we've evoked both Bob Fosse and Stephen Sondheim in our review of The Grinch. And I would love, love, love to see Bob Fosse and Stephen Sondheim's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
But we need, like, Hal Prince to direct it and...
Directed by Hal Prince?
Like, just really completes the trifecta.
Choreographed by Bob Fosse. Yeah. Composed by Stephen Sondheim. Starring Elaine Stritch as the Grinch.
Oh, wow. Oh, that would have been so good.
We've exited joke and into just actual something that would be good.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah. The wheels are turning. Okay, so out of 10 Playbills, how many monkeys are you giving? Oh, wait, did we do it for direction?
We didn't even do it for direction.
Okay, can we put it together, or do you feel they need to be separated?
I feel they need to be separated, and I'll tell you why. I'll give the ratings for both right now.
Okay, perfect.
Direction gets 3 out of 10 because, like I mentioned, I think it's a little bit on the director to just assume the responsibility for a joyless production like this.
Yeah, okay.
The choreo, I'm going to give 6 out of 10, believe it or not.
Yep.
Because at least something like the shuffling and the butts and the hips and the tied together knees is a concrete artistic choice.
Yes.
And it's something that this production desperately needs, is just someone to make a decision.
Yep, I'm with you there. Completely.
So what about you? Give your ratings for direction and choreo.
So 6 for sure for choreo. And I wish I could give more, but yeah, we were just missing a couple of really simple choices that can elevate the movement. So 6 for choreo.
That's as high a rating as you can give for choreo that wasn't actually fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we saw what she was trying to do, and I think that's what we're
Exactly.
really awarding here. And then I'm gonna say 4, and I'll tell you why, for direction.
Yeah.
Because I think, because you said 3, right?
I did.
I see your 3, but I raise you a point, mainly because I think this director spent so much time working to get Matthew Morrison to a place that was a semblance of the character of the Grinch, that merits an additional point for Max Webster's direction. That's what I believe.
All right. I'll accept that. Yep. Because we're going to get to Mr. Morrison in a second.
Should we talk about the design?
Let's talk about the design. There's some stuff I really liked about the design.
Yeah, so the production design was by Peter Bingeman. Lighting design was by Dave Davey. That's a real name. And then the costume design was by Sutra Gilmore. And then I'm sure like a bazillion million assistants, but they don't mention the assistants on the NBC webpage, which I actually thought was a little bit not great.
That's kind of rude.
Yeah.
Assistants, we love you. Both Jill and I have done a lot of work as assistants. We'll continue to do a lot of work as assistants.
Yep.
Assistant work is so essential and actually really fun. Some of the best times I've had in my life has been assistant work.
Yeah, I enjoy doing that. So those are our designers.
I like a lot about the set design in that I like, there's a bunch of times when they reference the storybook, like the drawings from the Dr. Seuss.
Yes, they do.
And that's cute. I like that a lot.
I agree. I like it too. And they do that in the Broadway productions as well.
Fantastic. I think referencing that is a lot better than referencing the really shockingly bizarre and garish design of the Jim Carrey version, which is like this bizarre dystopian Whoville. It looks insane.
I read somewhere that it looks like they all have the same, like, bad plastic surgeon.
That's exactly what it is! Because all the Who's have this weird nose.
The Who's look kind of messed up.
Oh, it's such a bizarre movie. I love it, and it's such a bizarre movie. All the Who's and the Grinch, because the Grinch is like a mutated Who in this version.
Oh!
With 2 exceptions. So Christine Baranski is like one of the only Who's that doesn't have this like really egregious fake plastic surgery thing going on. And Cindy Lou Who also doesn't have the fake nose as well.
Is it because they kind of like look like Who's already in their real life?
Taylor Momsen, who plays Cindy Lou Who, does not, but I think it's also a thing of like we as the audience are supposed to be like, ah yes, Christine Baranski, you are hot. I can see why the Grinch is into you. And which is a thing.
Y'all are making me want to watch this movie now.
I highly recommend it.
It's a trip and a half, Jill.
Yeah.
I need to see it.
If this production is a nightmare fever dream that doesn't feel very good, that one's a friggin' like acid trip that you go on for 8 hours and it feels great.
So, anyway, we like the set. We agree.
Yeah, it's for the best that they don't reference that movie.
Yes.
Costumes were fine. Matthew Morrison looked like the Grinch. That was cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to chime in with what a dear friend of the podcast, Dora Carroll, had to say about some of the...
Ooh.
Dear friend, actual friend.
My favorite thing is that Cindy Lou Who's design, rather than being based off the original book, looks more like a troll doll. Like, because she has very, like, sticky-uppy pink hair, and just looks as, like, fake freckles and, like, pink cheeks, and, like, the Cindy Lou Who that we've come to know and love has these, like, iconic loopy braids, which are missing here.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I didn't notice because she was just so dang cute that I was like...
She is very cute.
I didn't even notice what she was wearing.
She's very cute. Yeah. She's really good. Okay, well, let's wrap up the design, then we'll talk about her.
Yeah, I thought the lighting was not good. There could have been so many cool things that they could have done, but they just stuck to, like, this one scrim and then, like, a hanging light bulb, and that was it.
dear friend of the podcast, Ali Fulmick, who's going to be a guest in the near future, I'm sure,
Yes.
wants to point out one comment, which is that there was a lot of pink, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pink is on the opposite end of the color wheel from green. So that's a cute little thing that the lighting designer was doing of like, Whoville is the opposite of Grinch Town.
Right.
I mean, obviously that didn't play, and the only thing that actually resonated for was actual lighting designers.
I like that. That's cute.
Does that maybe add a point to the lights for you?
Yeah. I can appreciate that choice.
Yeah.
The other thing that really got to me was the Grinch makeup because, and I don't know if this falls into performance, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I feel like the makeup and all those, like, all the hair on his, like, eyebrows and head and stuff, like, he couldn't use his face. Like, I felt like he didn't use his eyes at all because he was afraid, like, his eyebrows were gonna fall off. So I don't know if that's, like, a makeup design flaw or if he's just a bad actor.
We will get to Sir Morrison in a second. I promise.
I think that also might be a weakness of the fact that this is a staged version that got filmed, because you don't have to play to a back row if the back row is, like, just wherever the camera is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a flaw. That's a flaw of the makeup, though. The makeup should have designed for the camera.
Right.
Okay, well, design out of 10 Playbills, how many monkeys would you give it, Jill?
Like a 4?
Yeah, I'm more generous than you. I'd say a 5.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
I just really liked the set pieces, but I just didn't like the other stuff as much, so.
Yeah. Let's talk about the performances. So before we talk about Mr. Morrison, I would like to give a special shout out to Medium Max. I thought that his performance of Changing My Major to Joan was incredible, and Older Max singing Telephone Wire brought me to tears. Even younger. Really outstanding stuff.
He's actually Alison Bechdel's muse.
Alison Bechdel's
Sir Boo Boo Stewart.
Boo Boo Stewart seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about performances that aren't Matthew Morrison.
Yeah, so we know the Grinch was played by Matthew Morrison. We have Old Max, played by Dennis O'Hare, whom I'm sure you've seen in many a thing.
He had a huge career.
He's usually, I don't know, an FBI agent or a dad or a teacher or something.
Totally.
Southern Vampire.
And then young Max was Boo Boo Stewart, whom you might know from the Twilight saga, I think.
That's right. Yes, I saw that as well.
And then Cindy Lou Who, Amelia Minto, brand new Sweet Baby Angel.
I would say outshines everyone.
Yep, absolutely.
Easily the best part of this.
Yeah. And then there were a bunch of ensemble characters, some featured Who villains, a Who family, and Joe Allen was so Joe Allen played Who 1, and then Francesca Mills played Who 2.
Right, and they're kind of like the super featured Who's.
Yeah, they do the steam heat number.
Do they ever? And I like them a lot. They've kind of got this really clowny thing going on. They seem like I didn't look them up, but if I had to guess, they're a clown duo in real life.
Oh.
Like, that was just my take.
You know what? I like them.
I like them too. Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
It was super the vibe I got off them, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're both West End actors. I think most of the Who's are West End actors, and you could really see the polish in their performances.
I agree.
Versus maybe some of the other more TV and film focused actors.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay, I just need to bring one thing up really quick.
Please do.
So I was reading that NBC website for credits to see who was who.
Who was who? And
I noticed that huge red flag, Matthew Morrison was also a producer on this.
Oh no.
That's fun.
That's an enormous red flag.
Yeah, that was such a red flag when I saw it. I was like, oh, I see what this is. Like, I see now what you're doing here.
So let's talk about Matthew J. Morrison.
Is that his middle initial?
I have no idea.
Matthew Elizabeth Morrison.
Elizabeth?
That's one of my favorite jokes in that musical.
It's so good. You and Matt Morrison have a history, hey Jill?
Oh, do we ever? So I saw him on Broadway in Finding Neverland.
Oh, no.
Yeah, oh no is right. Do you want to just close your eyes and imagine him doing like a Scottish, like a Glasgow accent for 2.5 hours? It's exactly what you think it sounds like.
Doing a take on Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland, who's already
Oh,
a problem.
gosh, it's just... Anyway, so I already super don't appreciate him as a performer. That sounds so mean, but I just...
Well, did you watch Glee?
No, I didn't.
So and you never watched Glee, so your experience with Matthew Morrison is Finding Neverland and like the original Broadway Light in the Piazza, which he's pretty good in.
Yeah. The other thing I know Matthew Morrison from is my friend Sarah Lipinski. She sent me a video because when she found out we were going to be talking about this, she sent me a video of Matthew Morrison on Glee doing the thong song.
Oh, God. Yes.
So there's that also.
Virtually my only experience with Matthew Morrison is Glee, other than like OBC Light in the Piazza and OBC Hairspray.
Right. Oh, yes, of course. Mm-hmm.
So my only significant experience with him is Glee. And I think like a lot of people, for 5 or 6 episodes, thought that Glee was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen when it first dropped.
Okay.
Like I thought that Ryan Murphy's voice was really exciting and fun. And this was this TV show with a really cynical biting edge, but that also really embraced both musical theater culture and band nerd culture in a really fun way.
Okay.
And it very quickly went severely off the rails, for me at least. And I had trouble watching past the first season.
Right.
And I think that Matthew Morrison is one of many reasons for that, is a big reason for that. And I think he's insufferable as a performer. And he seems smug and annoying.
Ugh.
And I don't like him.
Yep. Which you would think would all be like wonderful qualities to bring to the performance of the Grinch, but the issue is he doesn't even know he's those things or that we see him as those things. So he thinks it's like, oh, the Grinch is such a stretch for me because I'm so charismatic and fun and nice. But
and
it's
handsome.
like, no.
Yeah.
Ugh.
My theory is that it's a very simple thing. Matthew Morrison is not funny.
Yep.
He's not a funny man, and at the end of the day, the Grinch has got to be funny.
Yep.
This is the reason when we describe the disaster that is the 2000 Jim Carrey How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It is undeniably a disaster, but it's so watchable. It's so good. And that's almost exclusively because Jim Carrey is so funny.
Now I really want to see this movie.
I really can't. I want you to see it. I want you to live text me as you're watching it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Every listener who hasn't seen it, please do the same thing. My number is...
Quick editor's note. Paul DeGurse was reprimanded sharply for giving up personal information on the podcast.
Because it is... Jim Carrey is outstanding in a otherwise sensational disaster of a movie. And it saves the movie single-handedly. And Matthew Morrison is not funny in this, and it single-handedly sinks the ship.
110%.
It was most obvious to me in that number, in the one-of-a-kind number, where I'm like, man, it would be nice to have someone who like had a bit of a like old-school vaudeville edge, maybe some improv background.
Yes.
Like someone who's well-versed enough in crowd work that they can do crowd work without a crowd. Matthew Morrison is not that person.
The other thing they mentioned in the Broadway production, he does that number in front of a green, like, glittering scrim.
Oh, sure.
And I'm like, oh, where was that?
Yeah.
Where was that in this NBC production? Like, why does he have to do it in his bedroom?
Totally, right? In this weird lair set that's kind of meh.
His lair.
Yeah.
It's true. Yep.
I like that you went to bedroom specifically is pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, it just felt like he was just like, oh, I don't know. He was just in bed doing this whole show.
It almost feels unfair to attach all the other performances to Matthew Morrison, but those are the rules. We don't make them, we just follow them.
Yeah.
Out of 10 Playbills, how many monkeys would you give the performances, Jill?
It's a little all over the map, but if I had to make a choice, I would say 3.
Oof.
And that includes my extra point for Cindy Lou Who being adorable.
Wow. That is a harsh rating.
Yeah.
I was going to say 5 with Matthew Morrison coming in at a 3, but adding 1 for ensemble members who I have endless love for, and 1 for Cindy Lou Who being the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
I think I just have the worst taste in my mouth. I don't know if it's this Kahlua coffee or Matthew Morrison. I can't decide. It's never going to leave me. the end.
Gillian Willems. Mm-hmm. Should this be a musical?
No, thank you. Yeah, I like, we don't need it. We don't need it.
You don't even think a 45-minute musical adaptation of The Grinch Stole Christmas is worth existing?
No, I don't want it.
Fair enough. Let it exist only as the TV special.
And a book. Can we just have the book? Can we just have the animated special? Period. The end.
And make a new Christmas musical.
Yes. Like, there are Christmas musicals that exist already. We've got Holiday Inn. We've got White Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, now we have Elf.
I was gonna bring up Elf. Elf is surprisingly nice.
I actually don't know much about it. I've seen the movie. Is it similar?
See, it's very similar to the movie. It's got a lot of the same, hits a lot of the same beats. Nicer music than this for sure. I think it would have made a nicer special.
Okay, see, there we go. Now we're thinking.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I just don't feel like having this Grinch musical is going to be the thing that people talk about forever and ever. Like, I don't think children aren't leaving that theater going, I can't wait to see this again next year.
Absolutely.
I don't know. That's my feeling. And I'm so nostalgic for this book by Dr. Seuss, for this animated special. I just don't want it to be touched by anyone else.
I'm inclined to agree. I think that it is not enhanced in any way by making this a hour-and-a-half long musical. It doesn't add anything that isn't more charmingly done in the original animated series.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm inclined to say, no, this doesn't need to be a musical.
Boom. There we go. I think that's the first time we've ever said that.
It's the first time we've agreed on it. I said it about Big Fish, but I don't think you agreed.
No, I didn't agree.
Yeah.
I guess. So yay, we're on the same page.
Good for us. So, we got some incredible listener comments during and after watching this show. Some of them Jill and I have heard already. Some of them producer Daff has saved specifically for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very eager to hear them.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Daphne. I get my own segment. Oh, my God. Yay. So ever since dear friend of the podcast, Daphne's mom, my mom, found out that we were doing this, she's been sending me articles about the show, and the headlines alone have just been delightful. Mostly just everyone kind of collectively throwing their hands up and going, why? What? Why?
Yep.
A personal favorite of mine was one where Matthew Morrison mentioned his influences from Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, which got a really big why from me as a hearty fan of that little film.
Ditty.
My mom has also been messaging me just saying, like, I recognize no Grinch but Boris Karloff, no Grinch but the OG, so
yeah.
She's just very adamantly opposed to this entire production existing.
Yeah.
So this was actually really nice because we actually got to have the experience of watching this show along with some of our listeners at the same time, which was delightful.
Yes, I loved that.
Yep.
And so I have just a wonderful array of live reactions, including, yes. But why? And barf emoji. And I was so uncomfortable, I turned it off after the first 2 minutes. And just a lot of confusion about certain things that just kind of seem to come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Like, at one point when Media Max and Big Max, Boo Boo Stewart and Dennis O'Hare are dancing on the stage at the same time... We just don't understand why these two timelines are overlapping and intersecting. Like
some bizarre rift in the...
It's into the Grinchverse over here, and it's very confusing. Multiple comments about the terrible spot ops and just what a horrible job they were doing. Like, they were just not hitting their cues to save their lives.
I love hearing those types of comments, though, because those are things I probably wouldn't have noticed. Like, those little tidbits from the perspective of very, very gifted technicians and artists, and nothing that I am ever fully aware of.
And, like, more comments about just the things that get added, like fart jokes, and I don't need to hear the Grinch use the word hashtag. That just makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Or Emmy, the Emmy moment.
Oh, yeah.
And... my personal favorite set of messages we got, though, aside from the ones about my mom, were from, again, friend of the podcast, Dora Carroll.
Yeah.
Comparing and contrasting this production to the one that she recently directed with a bunch of high school students, Go Lions, where she basically just talks about how annoyed she is that with this scale of budget and this amount of time and money, that her set painted by a bunch of 12th graders looks better than the professional production.
Yep.
It's egregious, the fact that their Seuss land looks better than this.
Real talk.
The overwhelming sentiment expressed by our listeners is, why, dear God, why?
Barf emoji.
Barf emoji.
It is incredible to hear from our listeners. The whole point of this podcast is to recreate the feeling of the parties that we used to have pre-pandemic times in this weird post-pandemic world. And so it definitely warms my heart a little bit, makes my heart grow 3 sizes to hear from all of our dear friends and imagine we're all making these comments in the living room together at some point.
That's such a great way to put it. Thanks for sharing that, Daphne, and for being on the receiving end of those communications.
It's just really nice to not feel so alone while I'm watching this happen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, totally.
That might be the final note before we get to flop, bop, or make it stop, is that after we finished this on Wednesday night, I just kind of felt sad, and I went to bed.
Me too. I was like, oh, I guess I'll just go read it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm just gonna go read a book.
This was an emotionally taxing experience.
It really was. And I think I ran out of wine. Like, I feel like I didn't have any wine left, and so I was like, oh, just so sad and like,
We had mulled wine over at our place. We'd made mulled wine special for the event.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was the best part of the evening for sure.
Honestly, if I would have known what we were getting ourselves into, I would have stocked up. Shall we flop, bop, or make it stop?
Jillian, is this Deuce, Seuss,
No.
or it's God of Vamoose?
Why did you surprise me with that? Were you scheming about this?
I blindsided you. Yeah, this is a big scheme.
Can you tell our listeners what this part of the show is really about?
Is it a flop? Did it not do so well? And that's understandable. Is it actually a secret bop? Is it actually a great show that didn't do well for a variety of contextual reasons? Or do we need to make it stop? Is this a disaster? So in this case, Deuce, as in it's a pile of poop. Seuss, as in it measures up to the original Dr. Seuss. Or it's got a vamoose, as in get it on out of here.
Okay, so what I'll say, I'm really thrilled that you surprised me with that. But what I'll say is that's already better than the whole script for the musical, so good job.
I love a rhyme. I'm sorry.
I will say vamoose. Bye. Yeah, I want none of that. We don't need it. I'll say it until the end of my days.
I agree wholeheartedly. I feel like I was the easiest audience on Wednesday night. I just wanted to see some people sing well. I wanted to see some people get thrown in the air. I'm desperate for theater at this point. I did not have fun watching this, even though I am so hungry to see something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Means that it's God of Vamoose.
No questions.
No questions.
Wow. Did we unpack all of that?
We did it.
Ugh.
We did it. Thank you for all tuning in. We're going to take a short Christmas hiatus.
Yay. I mean, not yay. I know some of you are pretty disappointed in that.
Well, the good news is we're not taking a hiatus from interacting with the people listening to this show.
Exactly.
If you can think of things you want us to cover, if you want to talk about these shows with us at any point, if you're interested in reopening the conversation about any show we've covered so far, please let us know.
Mm-hmm.
We would sincerely love to. We miss you all so much.
Everyone have a safe and happy holiday season. We will be back with a fresh episode on January 13th, so watch your podcast pages for that.
And watch our social media for which episode we're going to be covering. We'll drop it soon.
Yay, thanks everyone.
Bye now.
Hi everyone, this is producer Daphne speaking. Thank you all so much for listening to Monkeys and Playbills, the show where we take a look at Broadway musicals that had 100 performances or fewer before closing. To learn more about the show, you can follow us on Instagram at Monkeys and Playbills Pod, on Twitter at Monkey Playbills, or email us at monkeysandplaybillspod@gmail.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/monkeysandplaybills. Monkeys and Playbills is proud to be a Village Conservatory for Music Theater podcast. Original music for the show is provided by Paul DeGers, and the show is produced and edited by Daphne Finlayson. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you on January 13th.